Hello friends, and welcome back to my Bolt UV. This is Jim, and we're going to be going from point A to point B. So climb in, let's go. Well, last week we addressed big oil and coal when they drilled and dug up a dump truck sized set of lies that still make me sick as a dog. But this week I'm going to answer another Prager University question. Are electric cars really green? This title is going to be, yes, electric cars are really green. Well, this video is a good example of how sowing fear, uncertainty, and doubt can come back to haunt you in the future. So we're going to be fact-checking the video from Prager University entitled, Are Electric Cars Really Green? This video was produced when President Obama was still in office, and it features Bjorn Lomborg, president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center. I will put a link to the video in the description below, and I again ask that you go view that video before you continue here. And I'm going to address line by line the FUD and outright lies that are given in this video. Well, this video opens with the following. Do electric cars really help the environment? President Obama thinks so. So does Leonardo DiCaprio and many others. The argument goes like this. Regular cars run on gasoline, a fossil fuel that pumps CO2 straight out of the tailpipe and into the atmosphere. Electric cars run on electricity. They don't burn any gasoline at all. No gas, no CO2. In fact, electric cars are often advertised as creating zero emissions. But do they really? Let's take a closer look. Then Bjorn goes on to say, first, there's the energy needed to produce the car. More than a third of the lifetime carbon dioxide emissions from an electric car comes from the energy used to make the car itself, especially the battery. The mining of lithium, for instance, is not a green activity. When an electric car rolls off the production line, it has already been responsible for more than 25,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emission. The amount for making a conventional car? Just 16,000 pounds. Well, my response to this ridiculous assertion, it's going to destroy the lies and FUD once and for all. Number one, zero emissions is not true yet, but as the world moves more and more toward renewable energy, that will become true. As a good example, the production of electricity from coal has decreased over the past 10 years. And from 2017 to 2021, while President Trump was in office, it decreased by almost 7%, the biggest decrease in history. And over that same period, wind power increased from 3 to 9% of the yearly production. Again, the biggest increase in history. Under President Biden, the use of coal has slowed only 1%. The increase in wind power has gone up an additional 1.7%. And for those of you who follow our politics in this nation, those numbers are counterintuitive and the exact opposite of what you're led to believe in the media, which tells you Republicans love fossil fuels while Democrats hate fossil fuels. But in this case, the numbers do not lie. The biggest gains we've had as a nation in renewable energy has been under Republican leadership, Bush and Trump. And two, the amount of carbon needed to make an electric car as compared to an ICE car is no longer 25,000 pounds to 16,000 pounds as pointed out in this video. It's more like 19,000 pounds to 16,000 pounds. A lot has changed in the intervening 7 years since this video was made, and pretty soon there will be no difference in the carbon emissions to make any type of vehicle. So there's that FUD down the drain for those on the fossil fuels support side of the aisle. Bjorn then goes on to say, but that's not the end of the CO2 emissions, because while it is true that electric cars don't run on gasoline, they do run on electricity, which in the US is often produced by another fossil fuel, coal. As green venture capitalist Vinod Khosla likes to point out, electric cars are coal-powered cars. The most popular electric car, at the time of this video anyway, the Nissan Leaf, over a 90,000 mile lifetime, will emit 31 metric tons of CO2 based on emissions from its production, its electricity consumption at an average U.S. fuel mix, and its ultimate scrapping. Well, I guess it's time for me to kill this FUD-filled lie right now. First of all, Mr. Vinod Khosla does not know his butt from a hole in the ground. In the USA, the mix of electricity, fossil fuels, renewable, and other would produce a typical fuel mix that would give us a carbon footprint for an electric car that is only slightly better than that of a gasoline vehicle. But Mr. Khosla does not understand EV owners. In fact, in 2017, EV owners charged with their own personal solar between 28 and 40% of the time. And today that number is estimated to be 60%. And when do most EV owners charge their cars? 80% of EV owners charge their cars in the overnight hours when baseload electricity is being produced to keep the electrical grid on the line. This means that the carbon that is being produced during this time is going to be produced anyway. It's going to go to waste. The base load power that all electrical companies keep online is between 40 and 60% wasted in the overnight hours as it goes unused during low demand. This means EV owners are actually reducing the carbon load even more by using this ghost power. And scrapping an electric car is greener than it is scrapping an ICE car. Why? We've already addressed this in two of my previous videos, but suffice it to say, when you recycle a car battery, you reduce the need to mine for the minerals in that battery by 90%. And soon, that will be even a larger number. So based on these facts, Mr. Vinod Khosla is 100% wrong in his misleading statement that electric cars are coal-powered. That is hyperbole brought to you by the oil and coal industry. Well, then Bjorn goes on to say, a comparable Mercedes CDI A160 over a similar lifetime will emit just 3 tons more across its production, diesel consumption, and ultimate scrapping. The results are similar for a top-line Tesla, the king of electric cars. It emits about 44 tons, which is only 5 tons less than a similar Audi A7 Quattro. So throughout the full life of an electric car, it will emit just 3 to 5 tons less CO2. In Europe, on its European trading system, it currently costs $7 to cut 1 ton of CO2. So the entire climate benefit of an electric car is about $35. Yet the U.S. federal government is essentially providing electric car buyers with a subsidy of up to $7,500. Well, Prager University came out in this video assertion, and they stated the Audi A7 Quattro at 90,000 miles equals 49 tons. The top-of-the-line Tesla Model S is 44 tons. And the difference is only 5 tons. Those numbers are pretty much fake and wrong. Let's crunch the numbers on a Model S. At 90,000 miles at 3.9 kilowatt hours per mile, that's 23,077 kilowatt hours, 40% of which is solar, which is zero emission charging, which leaves 13,846 kilowatt hours. Of those, 80% overnight charging is 11,077 kilowatt hours. That's also zero emission charging, and that leaves 2,769 kilowatt hours at emissions. The EIA says the USA Energy fuel mix is 0.857 pounds per kilowatt hour, and that means there's 2,373 pounds of CO2, or about 1.19 tons of CO2 emissions over that same time period, not 44 tons. And even if we crunch the numbers against the original assertion, 49 tons, 44 tons with a 5-ton difference, if we crunch them assuming a fuel mix of 0.857 pounds per kilowatt hour across the entire entire line of charging, that's only 9.9 tons, which is 39.1 tons different, not 5 tons. So the original assertion, 49 tons minus 44 tons, leaves 5 tons. And the reality of solar and overnight charging at zero emissions is 49 tons compared to 1.19 tons, which is a 47.81 ton difference. So as you can see, everything that was in that video is absolutely false. Bjorn then goes on to say, paying $7,500 for something you could get for $35 is a very poor deal. And that doesn't include the billions more in federal and state grants, loans, and tax write-offs that go directly to battery and electric car makers. The other main benefit from electric cars is supposed to be lower pollution, but remember, Vinod Khasla's observation was electric cars are coal-powered cars. So my response is this, simple. Okay, my friend, you've missed the point. The real cost for cutting 1 ton of CO2 from the atmosphere cannot be measured in dollars, no matter what the European exchange does. The subsidy is not to cut CO2 emissions. The subsidy is there to encourage people to purchase EVs. Adoption of EVs is necessary in our complex society, and the sooner we wean the world off of fossil fuels, the better off we will be. Back to the FUD of electric cars or coal-powered cars. Come on. Anybody with more than a third-grade education knows that our current electrical mix is not 100% coal. So that is a factually misleading statement that you repeat here to elicit an emotional response to the listener. A classic tactic for FUD-mongers like yourself. Bjorn then goes on to say this, and I had to laugh when I heard this the first time. Yes, it might be coal-powered, proponents will say, but unlike the regular car, coal plant emissions are far away from the city centers where most people live and where damage from air pollution is greatest. However, new research and proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that while gasoline cars pollute closer to home, coal-fired power actually pollutes more, a lot more. And then my response is simple. Where the pollution occurs is irrelevant. As I've already alluded to and will say again over and over, the goal of EV ownership is to move away from fossil fuels, including those used in power generation. So this assertion is a moot point and another line of FUD. Bjorn then goes on to play the death card. The researchers, which researchers, by the way? The researchers estimate that if the U.S. has 10% more gasoline cars in 2020, 870 more people will die each year from the additional air pollution. If the U.S. has 10% more electric vehicles powered on the average U.S. electricity mix, 1,617 more people will die every year from the extra pollution. Twice as many. My response to Bjorn here is simple. There are key words in his statement that must be called out in order to understand what he's saying. 10% more gasoline cars will cause 870 more deaths just from the air pollution. What about the other pollutants from gasoline cars? Water pollution, deaths caused by car fires, which are 61 times more likely. And what about the oil that is dumped into the oceans? How does that affect humanity? So 870 more people will die just from the air pollution. I can tell you that this number will actually be much higher if you include the land and water pollution that will happen. They purposely did not say anything about that. And based on the U.S. electricity mix, 1,617 more people will die from the extra pollution, which does include air, water, and land pollution. This is not a direct apples-to-apples comparison, is it? Actually, I have already proven that the amount of fossil fuels will be used will be far less than their pathetically wrong estimates. And again, finally, the goal of EV ownership is to move away from fossil fuels, including those which are used to produce electricity. And as if he just can't help himself, Bjorn goes on to say, renewable energy from solar and wind creates electricity for electric vehicles without CO2. Won't the perceived ramp-up of these renewables make future electric cars much cleaner? Unfortunately, this is mostly wishful thinking. Today, the U.S. gets 14% of its power from renewables. In 25 years, which would have been 2040, the Obama administration's Energy Information Administration estimates that the number will have gone up just 3 percentage points. Meanwhile, those fossil fuels that generate 65% of the electricity today will still generate 64% of the power in 2040. Well, my response to this is just precious. First of all, the assertion was wrong in 2015, and it is even more wrong today. In 2022, just 7 years after the video, fossil fuels have dropped from 65 to 60% of the total power production, and renewables have increased from 14% to 21.5%. All this took less than 7 years, not 25 years. Changes are happening at a very fast ramp-up rate. By 2030, not 2040, the mix will have changed even more. Fossil fuels will be 50%, and renewables will be 30 to 33% of the mix. Drop in a few nuclear power plants and we can get the fossil fuel numbers down to near zero by 2040. So everything that Bjorn said in 2015, actually 2016, about the numbers was just wrong. And we've already surpassed what his prediction was for 2040. And things are getting better a lot faster. Bjorn goes on to say, while electric car owners may cruise around feeling virtuous, the reality is the electric car cuts almost no CO2, costs taxpayers a fortune, and surprisingly generates more air pollution than traditional gasoline cars. My response is simple. 1, I've already proven your CO2 numbers are fictitious. Number 2, you cannot cost taxpayers a fortune if they're still paying taxes. And I assure you, EV owners still pay taxes. My IRS tax rate is well over 20%. And that is more than enough, my friend. And 3, as for EVs generating more pollution, that is an outright provable lie. It's not even FUD, it's an outright lie. You would lose in a court of law if you tried to make this a legal claim. And I would be there to help prosecute the lie. Bjorn closes out by saying, I'm Bjorn Lomborg, president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center. And my response to that is simple. Hey Bjorn, now that I've destroyed your video with factual information that blows your asserted conclusions and factless claims out of the water, are you going to have Prager University remove it from YouTube? We both know that you probably will not. I just want to remind everybody that this type of information from Prager University and many other sources out there is just going to promulgate its way through the internet and make life difficult for everybody. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt are the outcomes for which all of these types of videos are hoping for. They're wanting to keep people divided. They don't want to provide facts. I've just destroyed this entire video with factual information. You can look up anything I've said on the EIA website. There are many tools out there. The report that I used was as of February of 2023, and there's an annual energy outlook for 2024 which shows that renewables are really making a strong surge over the next 2 years. And for more information about the electrical systems and power production here in the United States, just go to the EIA website and type in energy mix or electricity fuel mix, and you'll find some interesting information out there. Thanks for stopping by. Remember to subscribe, share, comment, and like. And if you want to know when I've uploaded something new, just hit the notification bell. Remember, treat everyone with kindness, put a smile on your face, Help someone today and pay it forward when someone does the same for you. Thanks for stopping by again. Thanks for putting up with these videos, and we'll see you again real soon or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Take it easy.